Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, very warm welcome to you. If you're returning and coming back, you know who I am. My name is Sarah Kanda. I'm an architect with over 15 years of experience. I've changed it up a little bit here and I'm still trying to figure out what's working, but I think this will be it for the time being. So we'll see how it goes. I actually wanted to talk to you guys about my experience as an architect, what led me to become an architect, and how the field overall is at the moment, and also the things that I'm doing that actually made me realize that being an architect alone in this day and age, in this current climate, just isn't enough, and that it is so important to find different streams of income to help you grow, to help you scale. The last couple of months, my motto or my slogan has been create and scale. And I definitely want all of us to have that in mind in whatever field that it is that we're in whatever it is that we're doing, or whatever business it is that we want to get into. My reality of solely depending on projects hasn't really been that great since the year has begun. Within the architecture business, within the construction field, most of us aren't necessarily open about how we're doing or how we can help one another out, how we can really grow and scale, so that we can kind of come together as a community to really help each other in the projects that we're doing, or also just the opportunities that are out there that some of us may not be aware of. So the beginning of the year, quarter 1, has definitely been challenging for myself because it usually starts slow, but I felt like this year started a lot slower than the others. I did have projects that are continuing on from last year, which has trickled down into this year, which I am managing, as in being on site, talking to the contractors, talking to the clients and seeing how they are getting on, how they are progressing. But I'm realizing also that there's been a big impact financially for some of my clients. So, for example, one of the projects that we started last year will now have to be put on hold because financially for the clients it's not looking as positive as they had hoped for. And I think all of those things are fine as long as you know that you're confident with your decision making and that you're not stressed to a point where you feel as though this was the biggest mistake that you've made, the worst decision that you've decided to take on, and the worst project ever. I think with every situation that hasn't worked out the way that you had planned it to be, it's always good to have a plan B or C or D, depending on whatever situation you're in. But it's always good to have a plan, to realize that okay, this hasn't worked out, but this is now what we're planning to do, and we just need to hold just a little bit longer and then carry on when we're ready. So I've definitely learned this year that patience is key, especially in architecture and especially in the construction field. We've definitely felt that a lot of things that we hope would have worked have not necessarily worked out the way that we had planned, and that's completely fine. It's just finding another avenue in terms of income to keep growing and to not feel stuck in the place that we're at currently. I definitely think that for architects or creatives, people who are in the design field in general, really need to think about what else they can do. So, for example, I've had so many people that I studied architecture with who are definitely not in the field anymore, but they have gone into different directions and different avenues that branched out from architecture. So, for example, if you studied architecture, you can become a photographer, because we used to take photos of buildings everywhere. All the site visits we used to have, we'll take photos of buildings, and you can become a surveyor. You can become a graphic designer, because portfolio designs, we had to really make them look appealing and attractive. You can also become theater designer. Some people don't know that, but all the sets and all the setup that have to be put together in film. A lot of people who do film and cinematic sets are also the kind of people who did architecture or who have that kind of design background. So you can be in theater, you can be in film, you can become a landscape architect. I also am a landscape architect. You can go into lighting, because we always talk about lighting within a home or within a building, how that changes the mood. So there's so many avenues, and there's a long list of skills that you learn within architecture. A lot of people just get into these amazing careers, and that's when I really realized that architecture is not just made to be one thing. It can be whatever it is that you want it to be. So this is also just to encourage those who are doing architecture and who kind of feel like they've made a mistake, or maybe they've fallen out of love with it. It's not the end. You can always look at other avenues and look at other fields that you feel more passionate to. The way that I work now and the way that I now want to move forward for the rest of my career is to focus on three main pillars. They are working in practice, having content, and then certainly the educational part. So I will always keep architecture, residential architecture, and the design aspect at the forefront of my business and also of my way to live. That's definitely number one and key. I always think also about content, what you're putting out there, and how you can help others to be inspired by what you do, but also how to collaborate with others, other creators, other designers, other brands who are within that kind of design mentality and design mindset that you have, and creativity that you want to expand as the years go on. So definitely in terms of content, I'm always thinking of ways that can be inspirational to others. And then the last one will be education. So I've worked for a charity in the past where we go into schools, we encourage the younger generation to be and to think outside of the box of what they can be. So sometimes you might not necessarily see a woman like me be an architect. And until this day, I still get people saying, "Oh, I haven't really met many architects, like you, a black young woman. I haven't really, I don't know many architects like that." And I'm like, well, the industry is definitely growing. There's definitely more and more women. It's definitely becoming more and more diverse. It's true that there's still not many of us, but we are there. We are trying to represent. And that's definitely the role that I want to keep on playing. That's definitely something that I've always planned to do. The older I'm getting, the more and more I want to do those things. So I want to do more speaking engagements, going to schools and encouraging the youth to know about architecture. And also the world is evolving, knowing a bit more about AI and how you can collaborate the two so that you can be a bit more tech savvy without knowing way too much information, but the skills and the talent that you have, put that together so that you can create something that's not only meaningful to you, so they're meaningful to the future clients and the future prospects that you will have. And in return, you're able to make a living out of everything that you've learned and out of the inspiration that you've gained and your skills and talents. I think that's always the aim. The aim is always to grow. You learn what you've learned at school or whatever avenue you've taken, or just by scaling up. But then in the end, I think definitely just going back to being someone who's of service and giving back what you've learned to others, I think is definitely key and will help at least one person. And I think for me, that's the aim. I started this YouTube channel a few years back, but I haven't been as regular as I wanted to be until now, because I was really trying to figure out what is it that I want to put out there and how do I also want to be perceived, because you're not just going to put any content out there. It really depends on what you're trying to do. But for me personally, I've always wanted to teach people that they can make the most of any space that they have with the organizational aspects, and how you can really make those spaces feel more comfortable and provide that kind of wellness and well-being aspect. So that's always been my aim and the idea that I've had in mind. So hopefully throughout these videos, I am making these ideas clear to you guys. If there's any questions that you ever want to ask and that are definitely not very clear, they always clear in my mind, but they're not always clear to others, feel free to write your questions in the comment below and I'll answer as many as I can. So in the past, I definitely had an income milestone, which unfortunately doesn't work at the moment and in the world and the current climate that we live in now. So I have to shift those things and think about what it is that I should do and what it is that I can really keep on doing to scale. So you have to think of ways that you can make more income and restructure the way that you're doing things. And you really need to see how you can make the most of what you know, the knowledge that you're giving out to your clients and to people who are following your journey or who also need your service overall. So I think overall, this is all that I wanted to say today. I just wanted to come on here and just be a little bit more transparent about how the year has been going. Q1 is over. We've began Q2. Definitely looking forward to how this year will be. We're still at the beginning of the year, and I really want to encourage you guys, keep striving, keep being confident, and keep your head up in whatever business that you're doing. So in my next video, I'll show you exactly how I structure my projects and how I break them down in terms of fees and also other avenues that I've decided to take on, which would increase my income, whether they are side hustles or they are another branch of architecture. I'm happy to share that with you guys and just to keep being a source of inspiration.